What hit 80s movie owes it all to Kenny Ortega? What hidden secrets did production try to slip past us in Julie and the Phantoms? Did Charlie and Madison really write that song after watching a High School Musical? Salmonella's hot dogs. Can we all agree that the street dogs the Phantoms ate in episode 1 looked pretty good? They may have been the last meal the band ever had, but they didn't look bad. We all know that the hot dogs eventually ended up poisoning our favorite musicians, but there was a little clue there all along. The signage says, Salmonella's hot dogs. Say it fast and what do you get? Salmonella! If only our lovable heroes stopped to think twice before eating something out of the back of a car, maybe Alex wouldn't have spent the next 25 years crying. Sunset Curve wasn't the first choice. Names are often really tricky for writers to come up with, as they need to have just the right tone. It might seem to audiences that any old name will do, but that's not the case. Sunset Curve works for our Phantoms now, but it wasn't the first idea to be kicked around. In the episode Stand Tall, there are several band posters on the wall. Each one of these posters has a different name on it, like Big Onesie, Whisper Cats, and Midnight Madness. Don't you think Whisper Cats would have been a perfect choice? Well, Sunset Curve ticks all the right boxes anyway. There's a hidden missing poster of Luke. Let's go back to the hot dog scene again. We learn later on in the show that Luke's relationship with his parents wasn't the best and that he actually ran away from home. However, if you go back and watch that hot dog scene again, you'll notice that there's a missing poster of Luke just behind Alex, Reggie, and Luke as they sit on the couch. It's so sad that we can barely handle it, but it's a little hidden snippet that most of us would never notice unless we look twice. It's these kinds of little details that just make the entire show so much deeper, as if we needed an excuse to watch it again. Julie's costume hides a secret. By the end of the season, we were used to seeing Julie on stage looking like a legit rock star. But remember what she wore at the start of the season? Before she really came out of her shell, Julie wore a hat and tons of baggy clothes. There's a reason for that. Ortega wanted Julie to look like she was hiding from the world. She was sad, grieving for her mom, and she didn't have any confidence. That all changed when she met Alex, Reggie, and Luke. She went from frumpy high school student to a performance queen. When Julie starts to accept that her mom has passed on, she also starts to wear some of her clothes. Bet you didn't think that Julie's shirts were all that important, did you? Bonus fact, the costume department also hid dahlias in tons of Julie's clothes because they were her mom's favorite flower. Production tried to reference dahlias in every episode too, including in one where Julie is handed one of the flowers by someone in the street. It's supposed to be some kind of reminder that her mom is still out there, looking after her. Isn't that super sweet? We're not crying, you are. Pass the tissues. Madison named her hamster after a co-star. The cast and crew are pretty tight-knit. You don't have to be a genius to see that. But Madison was particularly starstruck by one person in particular. We're talking about Jeremy Shatta. For those of you who have been living under a rock, Shatta also voices Finn in the hit animated series Adventure Time. It turns out that Madison is a huge fan, so she was super excited to work with him. The young actress has made it clear that she's really into anime shows and other cartoons, so it makes sense that she would fangirl over Shatta. Who wouldn't? Of course, Jeremy plays Reggie. He may not be the smartest, but he's always so happy. Not only is Madison a fan of Jeremy, but she's a fan of Reggie too. She actually got a hamster after production and ended up calling it Reggie, telling fans that the character is just the sweetest and kindest person with the biggest heart, so it made perfect sense. Madison Reyes sang a musical hit for her audition. Ask any actress what it's like to do an audition tape, and they'll tell you it's awkward as hell. At least when you're there in person, you don't feel like as much of a dweeb. When Madison sent in her tape, she was just 14 years old. Instead of going for a pop track, she decided to sing She Used to Be Mine from the musical Waitress. That's not the easiest tune to belt out, but Madison did it. She also learned all of her lines from her scene, even the ones that weren't hers. No wonder Kenny and the rest of the team were so impressed by her that they picked her out of 1,000 hopefuls. Madison had no prior screen experience, so for her to land the lead role was a huge step. What about the rest of the cast? Well, Charlie decided to sing I Want It That Way by the Backstreet Boys. That's an interesting choice, but it got him through the door. Perfect Harmony was inspired by High School Musical. There are tons of incredible tracks throughout the season that Julie and the Phantoms perform. That's kind of their thing. However, there's one song in particular that really sent shivers down our spines. We're talking about Perfect Harmony. The chemistry between Luke and Julie had been brewing for a while by this point, so to see them have a moment like this was incredible. It wasn't accidental either. Madison and Charlie approached Kenny Ortega and asked if Julie and Luke could have a Troy and Gabriella kind of song. Of course, they were talking about High School Musical and the iconic duet Can I Have This Dance? They wanted their characters to have a moment, and they got it. You know what's even more incredible? Madison and Charlie put their heads together and wrote the song themselves. Honestly, some people get all the talent. Julie's Camo was a nod to Madison's mom. Julie wears some incredible outfits, especially when she's on stage. The more confident she gets, the better her style is. In one episode, Julie takes to the stage wearing an awesome camo jumpsuit. Not only is it incredibly stylish, but it looks hella comfortable, which is a combo we can get down with. The show is littered with a ton of references to Julie's dearly departed mom, but this camo getup is actually a nod to Madison's real-life mom. Madison might kick butt when it comes to her performing, but her mom is a sergeant in the US military. Incredibly, Madison would often sing the national anthem at military events her mom had to attend, so she got in a lot of practice. Kenny Ortega has some surprising credits. Even if you aren't a big Kenny Ortega buff, you might have guessed that this is one director that has some serious credentials. Aside from the obvious hits like High School Musical, Kenny has had a hand in some truly iconic movies. Did you know that he directed our fave Halloween movie of all time, Hocus Pocus? Not only is Kenny a crazy good director and writer, but he's also a great choreographer too. He came up with one of the most iconic dance sequences in the history of dances. You know when Johnny scoops up Baby in the final scene of Dirty Dancing? That was all Kenny. This guy has been in the biz since before most of us were born. He knows what he's doing, which is why the young cast were so excited to work with him. Just look how famous Zac Efron and Vanessa Hudgens got because of High School Musical. Carrie's group is inspired by Fifth Harmony. Every show needs a character that we just love to hate, right? Carrie is Julie's former BFF turned enemy and musical rival. Her style of music is somewhat different to Julie's. When we see her perform with her band Dirty Candy, there's a lot going on. Kenny Ortega reportedly took some inspiration from popular girl group Fifth Harmony for the routines, while the outfits were inspired by Korean pop groups. With all those colorful wigs, we should have guessed. The show has been done before. Okay, so when we say it's been done before, we're not exactly telling the entire truth. That would be boring. Julie and the Phantoms might seem like an entirely new concept. It does come across as being really original, but that's not exactly the case. Kenny Ortega got the idea from the Brazilian series Julie e os Fantasmas. The original show wasn't a big hit, although critics did like it. It only lasted for one season back in 2011. The spooky story was still enough to catch the eye of Ortega, though. The creators of the first show were super chill about it and basically told showrunners that they could just take the title and make up their own story. It didn't matter if they stuck to everything, but instead they should make something new. That's exactly what Ortega and his team have done. Isn't it nice when everyone gets along and there aren't silly lawsuits being thrown around? Jeremy Shatta has his own band. Jeremy Shatta is a busy bee. Unlike Madison Reyes, who is a baby in the business, Shatta has been working on different projects for a long time. He's one of the oldest cast members at 23. He's even married already. Aside from starring in Adventure Time, Jeremy also voices characters in Incredible Crew and Voltron: Legendary Defender. Shatta loves acting, but he's also majorly into music, which is partly what attracted him to the part of Reggie. When he's not on screen showcasing his talent, Shatta is busy playing in his band, Make Out Monday. A track is actually featured in one episode of Julie and the Phantoms, although you probably didn't know until now. Did you realize there were so many hidden secrets in this show? Do you know something extra about our favorite ghouls that we don't? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and stay spooky!